I had two fathers, a rich one and a poor one. One was highly educated and intelligent. He had a PhD and completed 4 years of undergraduate work in less than 2 years. He then went on to Stanford University, the University of Chicago, and Northwestern University to do his advanced studies, all on full financial scholarships. The other father never finished 8th grade. Both men were successful in their careers, working hard all their lives. Both earned substantial incomes, yet one always struggled financially. The other would become one of the richest men in Hawaii. One died, leaving tens of millions of dollars to his family, charities, and his church. The other left bills to be paid. Rich Dad Poor Dad is one of the best-selling personal finance books out there, and that is so for a very good reason. Today I'd like to explore some of the lessons taught by Robert Kiyosaki, its author, which he learned from his personal experiences with his two dads. Rich Dad, his friend's father, and Poor Dad, his own father. The lessons found in this book help us see the financial world a bit differently and help us awaken our senses to a better way of doing things. They also help us understand why becoming middle class is becoming less and less of a sustainable thing. If you want to be rich, you have to learn to make money. In this book, Kiyosaki shares a funny story of how him and his friend Mike heard these words and thought that it meant that they should make actual money. So they came up with an idea to make coins out of lead, which they later learned was actually illegal. Just like these 9-year-olds, a lot of us today don't really understand what those words really mean, which is why most of us end up in the same trap of thinking that having certain material possessions, like a nice car and a nice house, equates to being rich. As we continue learning from this book, we'll get to see how this is a very flawed way of looking at things. We'll get to learn from the contrasting ideas that Kiyosaki learned from his two fathers. Number 1. One dad recommended, study hard so you can find a good company to work for. The other recommended, study hard so you can find a good company to buy. One of the biggest things that Kiyosaki teaches in the book is the importance of education. But not just academic education, but financial education too. He speaks of how for most people, the plan is to go to school, get good grades, and eventually get a good paying job with all sorts of perks and hope for a good life going forward. But the reality of doing this is that most people who follow this plan never really learn how to manage their finances and put their money to work. That being said, academic education is good, but it's not good enough to have it alone. Once you make money, it's important to learn how to put your money into investments that will make money for you. Here's an excerpt from the book where he explains this a little bit further. Although both men had tremendous respect for education and learning, they disagreed about what they thought was important to learn. One wanted me to study hard and earn a degree and get a good job to earn money. He wanted me to study to become a professional, an attorney or an accountant, and to go to business school for my MBA. The other encouraged me to study to be rich, to understand how money works, and to learn how to have it work for me. Now think about this. In the world we live in today, how many people do you know who are academically brilliant but lack financial discipline and always seem to find themselves in bad spots when it comes to their financial well-being? This stems from a lack of financial education, which for some reason isn't a subject that is taught in school. So the big lesson here is to learn how to make money work for us, because unlike people, money does not get tired or sick, so it never needs a break. It can work for you continually, day and night. This is why Rich Dad's recommendation was to study hard in order to buy a business so you can put your money to work. Number 2. One encouraged talking about money and business at the dinner table, while the other forbade the subject of money to be discussed over a meal. Most people don't get to grow up being able to discuss finances with their parents, and therefore tend to grow up with a belief that the subject of money is taboo. By not learning to talk about money, people often resort to a lot of beliefs that aren't so beneficial to them in the long run. As mentioned earlier, there seems to be a default way of going about life that most people will follow, which yields the same results every time. A bunch of academically educated individuals who cannot communicate their finances very well. Unfortunately, this works against the average person as it puts them at a disadvantage when it comes to understanding the language of money and how to navigate the often treacherous path of credit and taxes. Third, both dads paid their bills on time, yet one paid his bills first while the other paid his bills last. Bills are meant to be paid, right? But what's the most effective way to do so that would work in your favor? Isn't it ironic that rich dad is the uneducated one who is also a business owner, while poor dad is the educated university professor? For the university professor, when he gets paid, the government wants his piece of the pie, something we commonly know as income tax. Once this is paid, there are a number of other deductions that are incurred. Then there's property taxes and taxes on food, clothing, and fuel, which means that he mostly works just to pay taxes. The first thing he thinks about when he gets paid is all of his bills. Rich dad, on the other hand, owns businesses, and when they all make money, guess what happens? The money first goes to all the expenses that are needed in order to run the businesses, then can bills and taxes be paid. Not to mention, business tax is charged at lower rates than income tax. By virtue of owning a business, rich dad not only gets to pay his bills last, but also got to pay less for them. The lesson here is that with the right structures, you will get to keep more of your hard-earned money. Fourth, one dad believed in a company or the government taking care of you and your needs. He was always concerned about pay raises, retirement plans, medical benefits, sick leave, vacation days, and other perks. The other believed in total financial self-reliance. He spoke out against the entitlement mentality and how it created weak and financially needy people. He was emphatic about being financially competent. Job security, also known as the golden handcuffs, is something that kills a lot of dreams. Most people are trained to look for it and to work their way up the ladder. And with all the benefits that are offered, they should be able to retire comfortably and not have to worry much. After all, they would have had all sorts of programs working to their advantage, right? Not quite. Remember how I mentioned tax earlier on? Here's how it would work. Pay raises would typically come with an increase in taxable income, and your retirement fund would be subject to tax when it's finally time to access it in your old age. How's that for retiring comfortably? Financial self-reliance, on the other hand, gives you the freedom to make mistakes and learn from them. You get to learn valuable lessons about how money works, and this tends to help you take more responsibility for your finances. You have the opportunity to choose where you want to invest your money, which means you can explore tax-free options and look for ways to maximize your returns on that end. Because you'd be the one making the decisions, you will get the opportunity to decide when you'd like to access some of your money and at what percentage. You'll be able to buy income-producing assets that can help you get some cash flow going. Being an employee and having a secure job makes most people feel very entitled, and this is something that Rich Dad made sure to teach against. In the book, Kiyosaki tells of how him and his friend Mike agreed to work at one of Rich Dad's businesses in exchange for lessons on how to make money, and this was one of the lessons that Rich Dad taught in a very unorthodox way, but once understood, the lesson made a lot of sense to both of the young boys. There are a number of lessons that we can learn from the book, and if you'd like to learn more, I highly recommend that you read it. That being said, let's get to the crux of the matter. Why is it that the middle class struggle? But first, what does it even mean to be middle class? According to an article from Investopedia titled 6 Signs You've Made It to the Middle Class, they say that there's no official financial standard that defines the middle class, but there are certain benchmarks that seem to attest to that classification. Owning a home and car, as well as being able to pay for your children to go to college, are among the milestones. Being able to tuck away enough money for your retirement is significant, as is the ability to obtain health care for yourself and your family, as well as having enough disposable income to take your family on vacation. So with this criteria in mind, let's see what Kiyosaki had to say. One of the reasons the rich get richer, the poor get poorer, and the middle class struggle in debt is that the subject of money is taught at home, not in school. Most of us learn about money from our parents. So what can poor parents tell their child about money? They simply say, stay in school and study hard. The child may graduate with excellent grades, but with a poor person's financial programming and mindset. Sadly, money is not taught in schools. Schools focus on scholastic and professional skills, but not on financial skills. This explains how many smart bankers, doctors, and accountants who earn excellent grades may struggle financially all of their lives. Our staggering national debt is due in large part to highly educated politicians and government officials making financial decisions with little to no training on the subject of money. Money is one form of power, but what is more powerful is financial education. Money comes and goes, but if you have the education about how money works, you can gain power over it and begin building wealth. The reason positive thinking alone does not work is because most people went to school and never learned how money works, so they spend their lives working for money. If you really think of it, the message that Kiyosaki is really preaching here is financial literacy. Without it, no matter how much more money you can start making, you'll always struggle to manage your finances. Being financially literate helps you make more sound decisions that can help you make the most of your money. So why is it that the middle class are struggling? Because they lack financial education. A popular passage in the book speaks to this, and even if you haven't read the book, you've probably heard the saying. This is how it goes. Rich people acquire assets. The poor and middle class acquire liabilities that they think are assets. Knowing the difference can make the difference. You might have wondered why I chose to talk about the two dads and discuss their opposing views. The reason for that was the hope that their views will resonate with you and hopefully spark an interest in you learning more about your finances and how to manage them. So I have a question for you. Remember how in the beginning I mentioned that the book Rich Dad Poor Dad was one of the best-selling personal finance books around? This means that a good amount of people have read it, right? So what seems to be the problem? Application. Putting off the action part of the process. Don't add to this number. Do the right thing and read the book and then find ways to apply what you learn. Reread it if you have to so the lessons can become clearer and sink deeper. Are you ready to take action? If you are, then comment below of what you'll start doing, and while you're there, subscribe to the channel and like the video, as this helps the message spread and help more people learn these great lessons. Don't forget to share the video with a friend and get them started too on the journey to financial freedom. There are practical steps that you can follow in order to learn to take action. Find out what those are by watching this video. See you there, and remember to stay invested.